more Ploy Boys Dynasty podcast, the greatest podcast that you didn't want or ask for. And now introducing your hosts, Jake the Gluten-Free Harris and Peter Cheater P-Goo Hot Sizzle O'Donnell.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I gotta say, the guy who does the intro for that for this show is a lovely, lovely voice. All right, boys. Tonight's one of those nights. I just want to hear myself talk, and frankly, I'm kind of using y'all as an audition for if I ever were to finally get the balls to start my own actual YouTube channel where I actually make Dynasty content. Actually talk about this stuff. I've spent a lot of time learning about it, so may as well try to monetize it a little bit, because I like doing this anyways. Frankly, it's fun. Even though like one, maybe three of you will watch this, I enjoy this. So maybe I should actually just suck it up and go for it. But that would require me to actually give a shit about the quality of the actual content I'm creating. And I currently don't have time to do that with so many little children. Maybe in a year or two when they're a bit older. Without further ado, let us talk about how to understand, manipulate, and use the Dynasty metagame to your greatest advantage to absolutely crush your competition. First, what the hell is a metagame? It is a gamer term. My kid's fidget spinner's on the ground right there. And then what is that? It's a dog bowl right there. Pair of shoes. Box of stuff that we're packing because we're going to move. Box of stuff that we're packing because we're going to move. Gonna move. That right there is lighter fluid. Anyways, what the hell is metagame? A metagame is a gamer term. ADHD kicked in there for a bit. Metagame is a gamer term. And when I say gamer, I mean like esports. I mean like computer mouse nerds, like me, things that I do. It basically means the dominant strategy used to win, and how that how that plays out is it's the dominant strategy that you then have to master or counter. Generally, one of those two things is being played. So, in a, for example, like in a Dynasty setting, or sorry, like in a sport, like let's use football. In an NFL setting, the metagame originally was a run-first, power-focused offense, meaning the running backs were heavier, they were bigger, they were stronger. The linemen were bigger, heavier. Well, maybe not bigger, heavier, stronger. But like the running backs were bigger, heavier, generally, and power was more important. You know, could your guys run block? Could your running back break tackles? Now, in the modern NFL, we've switched much more to a pass-focus league. So, what's valued much more over power is speed. Guys like Jameson Williams, who aren't going to really play their entire rookie year, are drafted with top, 12 NFL draft capital because they're fast. Henry Ruggs was the first receiver. Was he the best receiver available? No. No, he really wasn't. Everyone knows that. The Raiders probably knew that when they drafted him. But you know what? The dude was fast as fuck. Boy. So, that is what is important to NFL teams today. And the defenses have adjusted to the metagame of offenses getting faster by linebackers getting smaller and smaller and smaller and quicker and quicker and quicker and better and better and better at coverage. That is kind of a metagame, more or less summed up. Now, Dynasty has undergone a massive metagame shift in the last probably 3 years. First and foremost, there is a ton of Dynasty content creators just popping up out of nowhere. Those guys were like itty-bitty just 3 years ago. Less than 10K subs on like one of the biggest Dynasty channels. There's Dynasty channels that have over 100,000 subscribers right now. That's wild to me. We're a niche. Dynasty is a niche audience within a niche audience. Fantasy football is a niche audience. We are a niche audience within that niche audience. So, but anyways, ADHD, damn it. Undergone a massive explosion in content creators. So there's so much more information available to the average Dynasty player who's looking to kind of learn. Now, what is the shift that has undergone in the Dynasty metagame? First and foremost, rookie picks were not nearly as valuable 3 years ago. You were able to trade like a... Here's a trade that I did, I believe. I think I traded... Let me make sure. Jordan, if you're listening, what up? I'm pretty sure this one was with you. I'm pretty sure I traded like Stephon Diggs and Calvin Ridley for like... It was Stephon Diggs for like 2 first-round picks and Calvin Ridley. You currently cannot do that. Like, if you don't believe me, here, let me find, where is Stephon Diggs even? Stephon Diggs on Keep Trade Cut is valued as the 40th player off the board. 40th. He is worth a numerical value on Keep Trade Cut. They have a 10,000 point scale as 5,062. That's pretty valuable. That's basically a mid-first round pick. Stephon Diggs is worth a mid-first, because mid-first is worth 48.75. Now, Stephon Diggs, trading Stephon Diggs for 2 firsts plus a Calvin Ridley, who at the time I think was taking his break with mental health. So, like, his future was kind of up in the air and people weren't sure what to do with him. And he wasn't winning anyone any championships because he wasn't playing at that point. That deal is not going to happen today. It's just not. Now, I think that was in a single quarterback league that I made that trade, so it does shift the value towards less of the picks. Those picks are worth... weirdly, the value of the picks goes up, but the value of Stephon Diggs also goes up. So Stephon Diggs is worth about 6,200, and those picks are worth about 56.50. So still not a massive gap, a gap of about 600. That's not a wide gap. To get 2 of those plus Calvin Ridley it's absolutely audacious for a guy like Stephon Diggs. Now, we have seen... Wow, okay. That's kind of where things were a couple years ago. Just like, I'm wowing at how off track I get sometimes. That's why these videos end up so damn long. All right, so that's where we came from, and where we've gone to now is that, like, if you want to sell an elite producing veteran receiver, Cooper Kupp, for example, when he was on the field last year, the dude was fucking elite. He didn't tear his ACL or anything like that. He basically had like a hamstring that was bothering him for a while, and they're like, look, we're not playing for anything, Coop. Just, we trust that you're not going to go get morbidly obese. Come back. We'll hit it up next year. Cooper Kupp's 30 years old next year. Like, no, this is the oldest he's ever been. That's one way of looking at it. It's the oldest he's ever been. Devontae Adams, oldest he's ever been. Both of them, you're not getting more than a mid-first round pick right now. Dynasty deeply, deeply hates old players. But Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, all of those players are like the top producers. Like they're the top producers at let's see, I'm trying to see season. All right, so let's see. Fantasy points. Tyreek Hill, wide receiver 2. Devontae Adams, wide receiver 3. Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 4. I didn't actually look this up before we go. This is just the fucking truth. Cooper Kupp, obviously got hurt way down there, but like his points per game were fucking wild. Week 1, 25. Week 2, 26. Week 3, 14. Week 4. This is in half-point PPR, by the way. In full point, it's significantly higher than this. In week 4, 19. Week 5, 22. Week 6, 13. Week 8, 19. Week 9, 23. Then he gets injured in week 10. Like, he didn't have a game in half PPR. He didn't have a game worse than 13.2 points. That's bananas. In full PPR, his worst week, 7 plus 8 is 15. 15 points. That took me entirely too long. That's embarrassing to out loud my math like that. 15 points was his worst week in full PPR. The teams that are going to be taking home the money next year, they're going to have those guys on their roster. And I don't understand why all you have to do to get them is give up a projected mid-round first. It don't make sense to me because those mid-firsts, like, what was the mid-first in the most recent drafts? The sleeper is so horrible on the desktop. It just doesn't work well on desktop. The functions just aren't there. All right. Draft results 2022. Mid first round pick. Treylon Burks was the 104. Garrett Wilson was the 105. Kenneth Walker the 106. Probably should have been the 102 in hindsight. Most people had Kenny Pickett going around the 106. Sky Moore was the 107. Like, those were kind of like the mid first. Chris Olave was in there. It's like you had some great guys, but like it's a coin flip. Burks, Wilson. We'll say Pickett because Ray and I basically cheesed the draft. I told him that Kenny Pickett wouldn't make it through the 3, 4, 5 that I had all in a row to get back to Ray at the 6. But I said I wasn't interested in Kenneth Walker because I thought Kenneth Walker would be in a timeshare. That was a mistake on my part. So yeah, like Drake London, Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson. Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson, Kenny Pickett, not really a hit yet. Sky Moore, not really a hit yet. So we've got Garrett Wilson's the hit. Chris Olave is a hit. Christian Watson, sort of. Jameson Williams, I don't know. Like, those are all the guys that were going in the mid-first. Mid-first, start coin flip. You're telling me I could take a coin, say, hey, there's a 50-50 chance that this ends up being not worthless, but like something that nobody wants. No one wants Sky Moore. He's not worthless. He's worth a second-round pick, according to Keep Trade Cut. But I don't see a ton of people lining up to give me second-round picks for Sky Moore, frankly. I don't see a ton of people lining up to give me a late first-round pick for Treylon Burks, frankly. So, like, there's a 50-50 chance that this dude just, like, does nothing but this. And on top of potentially declining in value, will not be putting up fantasy points for you. So it's not just that, like, you take your depreciating Cooper Kupp asset and potentially re-roll it into a depreciating Treylon Burks asset. I don't know if Treylon's going to bust or not, but his value is definitely depreciating, has depreciated from the time that he was drafted. Not just a chance of you, like, turning it into another depreciating asset, which Cooper Kupp is, but one that doesn't score you fantasy points. Whereas you could have Cooper Kupp putting up 20-something points per week, 22 points per week. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. The Dynasty community currently is vastly overvaluing rookie picks. Frankly, even the ones that look like hits already, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, it's not hard to, like, create a narrative where those guys just do fuck all. Drake London. Atlanta never figures out a quarterback. Boom. Drake London suddenly becomes like Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman was worth a lot. Currently, Drake London is valued as the 27th player at 6,500. He didn't really put up any fantasy points. I had him in a redraft. I'd know. He didn't do fuck for me in redraft. Michael Pittman basically had a very similar season to Drake London. He's worth over 1,000 KTC points less than Drake London. Drake London, you are having to purchase with an early first. An early first is worth the same as Drake London right now. An early 2024 first is worth Drake London. They're 1 for 1. That's wild. It's wild. Drake's not putting up fantasy points probably next year either. I don't understand it. Michael Pittman, on the other hand, who's still on his rookie contract, I'm pretty sure. Not old. He was 25 this past season, about to be 26. Like, just, it doesn't make sense the way that Dynasty is overvaluing youth. So, like, there's a very good chance that Drake London next year, if he just goes out and doesn't have a great season because his coach doesn't want to throw him the ball, ends up exactly where Michael Pittman is valued next year. And then if he does it again, you're probably looking at Terry McLaurin. And if he does it again, because like Terry McLaurin was supposed to be the next hot thing, if only they could get a quarterback. Well, what if they just don't get a quarterback just the way that Terry McLaurin has never gotten a quarterback? Am I wrong? Meanwhile, you could have had who could I trade for Drake London? I could get Stephon Diggs in a second for Drake London. I could get Devontae Adams in a second for Drake London. I might be even able to get Devontae Adams on like a 2026 first for Drake London. Yeah, slam dunk, all those things. If I'm trying to compete this year. And that's the big if. Not enough players, not enough managers are trying to win in Dynasty. The next thing that's really interesting about the Dynasty metagame is how much it hates running backs, man. It absolutely hates running backs in Superflex. Here's how much it hates running backs. Is the moment it's like running backs are like cars. The moment you drive them off the lot, they lose half their value. Here's what I mean. Who do you guys think, like, the most valuable running back? Who's going to be the 101 in your redraft leagues? The 101 in redraft. Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor. If you're playing Superflex, probably neither of those guys. But if you're playing one quarterback, probably going to be one of those two guys. I think you could make a decent case for Saquon Barkley. Yeah, it's probably going to be like that. Austin Eckler is another one. God, his name's so far down the Dynasty list, I didn't even think about him. But like, yeah, Eckler, McCaffrey, JT, possibly Saquon. That's like your 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right? The Dynasty number 1 running back is Bijan Robinson, and it's not fucking close. The next up is Breece Hall, who's coming off a torn ACL. Bijan Robinson's value is 7,000 keep trade cut. 7,000 keep trade cut value. Now keep in mind, 7,000. If you're competing this year, you could absolutely go out and purchase Cooper Kupp and a future first and probably a second for Bijan Robinson. You could get a guy, Cooper Kupp, who's likely, not guaranteed, but likely to put up more points per game than Bijan, and a first and a second. And there's a small chance he puts up more points again the following year. Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility. No, it's also not out of the realm of possibility. Cooper Kupp's an old man, and he, gets a hamstring, and then just kind of, you're like, fuck, why the fuck did I just trade for this guy? Sorry, my baby's squawking. Just peeping and rolling around. We good. So, like, there's a non-zero chance that also happens. But basically, there's also a non-zero chance that Bijan Robinson doesn't go out and tear his ACL the same way that Breece Hall did. anytime you turn a pick into a player, it becomes an unsafe asset. Even Justin Jefferson is unsafe. What if Justin Jefferson blows out his Achilles? That would suck. But it could happen. It could absolutely happen. Things to think about, guys. Things to think about. The moment a pick becomes a player, they are no longer a safe asset. The 2024 101 can't get injured until the 2024 101 is a player. Then that player can get injured. Anyway, where was I going with all that? Oh, Dynasty points in like Bijan Robinson, in untangling my web of stupid logic. Bijan Robinson, the 101, 2, 3, and 4. So the 101, probably Christian McCaffrey, is worth 5,500 KTC points. Let me show you guys what I'm looking at here. Keep trade cut. Boom. All right. Christian McCaffrey right here. 25th player on KTC, worth 5,500. Saquon Barkley, 5,400. Here's how much KTC hates. Josh Jacobs was the running back 1 last year. Or the running back like 2. I don't know. Anyways, he was very high. 1 may have been Eckler. But Josh Jacobs, 4,800. The dude's just finished his rookie deal. And because he's finished his rookie deal, his value has evaporated. Josh Jacobs is a great buy that right at that price point, in my opinion. That's the cost of a late first. Austin Eckler, if you're competing, you could buy Austin Eckler for a 2024. Let's put the picks in there. Whoa. They all got pushed way down because so many picks are worth more than these stupid running backs. It doesn't make any fucking sense. For a late 23 first, that's worth 4,300. You could buy Austin Eckler, who's worth 4,600. 300 is not much of a gap on KTC. It's really not. Like, you could buy Austin Eckler for a late first. And like, that's a lot of the consensus of these Dynasty content creators. Like, they don't want running backs. If you're trying to win, you want these running backs because they're some of the cheapest fantasy points that you can buy. Do you think you could go out and buy a 20-point per game player at the wide receiver position who's under the age of 29? Let's go look with the late first. 20 points per game. First off, are there any 20-point per game players that are... Like, is anyone even putting up what Austin Eckler was putting up? Leaders, season stats, season average. Oh, that's 2023. Season average 2022. Wide receivers. All right. Yeah, Austin Eckler just put up 22 points per game. Cooper Kupp is number 1, 22.5 points per game. Justin Jefferson is number 2 at 21.7. Tyreek Hill is 20.4. He's 29, so no, he's not under the 29-year-old age cap there. Devontae Adams did not over 20 points per game. Stephon Diggs, also too old. Stephon Diggs, same thing. Jamar Chase didn't crest 20. CeeDee Lamb didn't crest 20 points per game. Jamar Chase didn't even crest 19. CeeDee Lamb didn't even crest 18. A.J. Brown, 17.7 points per game. Shockingly, Michael Thomas had 17 points per game, but I don't think he played in one game. DeAndre Hopkins, 17 points per game. We're only going further away from Austin Eckler's production here. You could buy, improving your lineup by 2 points per game at a position is pretty huge in Dynasty, in fantasy football. Improving it by 5 to 7 points per game is wild. On top of that, you think you could trade Amon-Ra St. Brown. Look at this. Where's Amon-Ra? We're going to go to the trade calculator. We're going to see what it takes to buy Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Come on. and Eckler. All right, it definitely wants the St. Brown side. Now, Austin Eckler just outscored St. Brown by 8 points per game. Fuck. That's fucking wild. And now, in order to purchase Austin Eckler, all you have to do, you could purchase Austin Eckler by giving up Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then you could get a guy like, oopsies, I clicked the wrong thing. Josh Downs, Wan'Dale Robinson. Okay, let's use Josh Downs because he's like a rookie pick. He's probably a mid-second rookie pick. So you could buy yourself 8 points per game for the next 1, maybe 2 seasons, and a mid-second for Amon-Ra. Teams don't want to compete. Competing is currently anti-meta, and you're getting a massive discount on buying those players that put you in a competitive state. Like, again, I'm gonna show you this one more time. I'm going to my players tab, clicking leaders, gonna drop down, scroll over to stats, season average 2022, filter. All right. The top 5 running backs in points per game last year: Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. Then it's Breece Hall. Then it's Nick Chubb. Then it's Joe Mixon. Then it's Tony Pollard. Then it's James Conner. Now, I know that, like, someone whose role expanded over the course of the season, like Kenneth Walker, not a fair comp. But also, like, Kenneth Walker didn't exactly tear it up on the back half of the season. 13, 17, 3, 12, 12, 15, 13 points. He only had 2 games over 20 points. Like, I'm just saying, this is a great chance to buy points. The Dynasty metagame is anti-competing at the moment. And it's wild. The stuff that you can get. Now, you also have to understand, that's the macro metagame. The metagame at large. The whole kind of Dynasty universe. That's how they feel. It's different in your own league. In your own league, everything's changed. Because you're not dealing with the universe. You're dealing with, in our league, 9 other players. So your whole universe is narrowed down to 9 people. And what those 9 people want to do completely changes it. For example, Eddie is not anti-competing. And Eddie was willing to mortgage his future to compete. So, those draft picks in our startup draft were at a discount. And when the league zigs, I always try to zag. So if people are giving away draft picks, I am going to pick them up. If I'm the only team rebuilding in my Dynasty league, good. Because then I'm the only team who's really thirsty for those picks, and all the rest of the league is going to shop just to me. However, if there's 2 other teams rebuilding, that's 30% of the league rebuilding, then you have to out-compete those other players for those picks. In which case, I would probably be trying to sell those picks for players instead of buying the picks with players. So again, you have to read your own micro meta within your dynasty, and then you have to read the macro meta. Now, the macro meta is definitely important, but the micro meta is where your league is actually going to be won and lost. How to apply that to your own league? This show is really already too long. I should probably write a script for my shows. I just don't have time to do that stuff. The way that you can apply this to your own leagues is essentially by understanding your managers, what they value, what they're going to do. So, for example, we know Jim is not a big trader. I roast him here constantly because I can't stand managers who don't make trades or don't even entertain close to fair trade offers. Then there is Peter Cheater, Pigu Hot Sizzle O'Donnell, who may or may not be sticking around. We'll see. Like, he is another player that's not going to really make a ton of trades. So, like, what Justin Herbert is going for in the, like, macro metagame with his value on keep, trade, cut, like in the Dynasty universe, is pretty unimportant because he's going to die on Peter's roster. Peter is not the kind of guy who's going to make those big trades. On Jim's team, guys like Tyreek Hill, doesn't matter. Like, Tyreek Hill is cheap points right now. Doesn't matter. Jim's not giving him up for anything less than bending you over and sodomizing you with a pool stick. So, like, you can kind of delete some players by just doing that. Now, you also can delete picks, basically, because, frankly, I have most of the picks in most of the super valuable picks in the next couple of years, and I'm not in the business of currently giving those away. The other ones, like the the only 2024 firsts available at this moment are Ray's, Rich's, and mine. Because, again, Jim's not going to be trading his, Peter's not going to be trading his. Rich is not really in a position to be trading away picks for players until 2025, like I highlighted in my previous video on how to rebuild a Dynasty roster. And Ray, I think Ray's 2 picks are they're definitely on the table for trades. He made the playoffs last year. I do think he won a game. He's got a great roster. It's very deep. I would like to see Ray package those things to upgrade at positions. So, like, you take a Christian Watson at 24 first and you go out and you purchase, like, a good young stud. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that would get, DK Metcalf. That's a great deal for DK. But is DK really going to outproduce Christian Watson by enough to give up a first? I don't know. Things you have to think about if you're Ray Mertz. Anyways, that's a bit of how to understand our local meta. Now, if what I think our meta is kind of showing right now is that picks were at a discount, but the time for buying picks is over. Now there is a scarcity of picks because the picks have all landed to the spot where they're likely going to, most of them, stay and get turned into players. I believe the picks are actually going to be the more valuable asset in the upcoming years, as Eddie's team is going to get older and older and older without any sort of new blood coming on. Ray's not adding any new blood in this coming year. I don't think Tom has a ton of draft capital in 2023. I know he's got 2 picks. Draft capital, youth is going to become the valuable currency in our league, and our league is going to eventually shift towards needing to rebuild. These older rosters are going to start getting eliminated in the first, second round of the playoffs. They're going to look and be like, man, I just can't compete with this insane young roster that myself or Ray or Rich or Jordan or someone has put together. And they're going to say it's time to rebuild. I need those picks. And there's going to be multiple teams that are trying to hit the reset button at the same time, is my gut feeling. At least 2 to 3 are going to be rebuilding in 2020, mid-2024 season, gearing up for 2025. So that's a bit of how to understand the Dynasty metagame, where I currently think the Dynasty community has it wrong, and what to do about it, how to capitalize, how to use these Dynasty rankings that the community has, where they really overvalue young receivers, even if they're only putting up a fraction of the points that these old receivers are throwing for. You could get the old receiver that's actually producing and a pick back for a guy like for like a Drake London. I could gain 8 points per game and a first potentially in like a 2025 first I'm actually curious if that's a thing. All right, we're going to do this together, and then we're going to go. I'm very curious. Drake London. And, oh, we were doing that in one QB. All right, and Austin Eckler, 20, 25. I'll say late first. Okay, that's not bad. That's pretty close, actually. All it takes is a third-round pick to balance that. And personally, I don't think third-round picks are worth all that much, despite having a ton of them. I love having third-round picks. But, like, their hit rate is low. That's why their value is low, but, like, their hit rate is low. Now, I love the Keep Trade Cut tool because it has a value adjustment aspect where it's not just taking the sum of these two things and adding them together. Having the most valuable asset in the deal is worth extra. So you can't just take like 3 third-round picks and be like, look, bro, I'm overpaying you for Drake London. Because that's just not how it works. So yeah, Eckler in a first, and I can improve my points per game by up to 10 next year. There's no guarantee that Drake London gets more than 12 points per game in the Arthur Bryant Smith's offense. Anyways, guys, I had fun talking to myself. I hope somebody watches it. Hope somebody listens. Hope somebody gets something out of it. Go out, buy those old running backs. They are very cheap points. Buy those old wide receivers. They are very cheap points. And some of them aren't even old, like Josh Jacobs. Dude's not old. Dude's got 3-4 years left as a starting running back in the NFL, and he's worth a late first. A first that could be Sky Moore. Go buy those guys. They're guaranteed, insulated, high yield, like fantasy point yield assets that are cheap. I don't get it. Go buy them. Goodbye.